Hello, welcome back to another SwansCast podcast. Been a little bit of time since the last one. Do have to apologise. I've been a bit under the weather, and that's the main reason, really. So probably won't be doing too much speaking today. Some people might be happy to hear that, but I've got Ben and Lee with me as always. So welcome back, lads.
How are we? Okay.
Hello, how we doing?
Getting there, getting better. But Ben, unfortunately, is having technical difficulties. So if you're watching on YouTube, you won't be able to see him today, but he is here. If you're listening to the audio version, of course, there'll be no difference. You still hear him loud and clear, but yeah, his camera's not working. So if you are watching, that is why you can't see Ben on the screen. So don't be alarmed. He is here. He hasn't run away, but
I'm sure
just
they'll be happy
technical
to have a break from my
difficulties.
face anyway. All good.
Hopefully, we don't clash when it comes to speaking because we can't see when you go into, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Anyway, since the last one, I believe the last podcast we did was after Luke Williams got sacked, but then before Sheehan's first game in charge. So we've got 3 games to touch on: Swansea against Blackburn, Preston against Swansea, and Swansea against Middlesbrough. Bit of a good run of form all of a sudden since the change of manager there, with 2 wins, being 3-0 against Blackburn and 1-0 at home to Middlesbrough, so 2 home wins, and a draw away from home at Preston and 0-0. So all of a sudden, I'm not saying we necessarily scored an abundance of goals, other than maybe Blackburn, which was the immediate aftermath of the sacking. But 3 clean sheets on the bounce as well, which I think is, well, it's just baffling to say how we've gone from that period of January and half of February where, we went from being quite sound defensively for the whole first half of the season, fell off a cliff and started shipping goals for fun for like a month and a half. And now Sheehan's come in all of a sudden again. I'm not saying the defence has like been massively amazing. I think there's times they've rode their luck, but we have kept 3 clean sheets at the end of the day. So massive change of fortunes, considering a lot of people were worried about relegation fight a couple of weeks ago. So Ben, I'll start with you then, because it's easier to sort of call your name now. I can't see you. What's happened since Sheehan's taken over then to kind of change the fortunes around at the Swans?
I mean, I don't think there's any point over analysing it, really. I think what it's just immediately uncovered is that the players weren't playing for Luke Williams. It's completely evident that after the whole West Brom saga, the morale must have tanked immediately and it never really recovered. Looking back at the performances then to now, it's like night and day. And we just look like very similar to the side we were when we were on that strong run of form around October through to December this season. Got to remember, it wasn't until November 24th against Leeds where we lost 4-3 that we even conceded more than a goal in a league game or cup game this season. So 3 clean sheets again. We've gone back to basics, back to the 4-2-3-1, doing the simple things right. The fullbacks are actually out wide. They're basically wing backs, aren't they? So the fact they were inverted was always a bit strange. It was up for debate. Now Timon and Key look sharp again. The wingers, they're still a bit touch and go. I know has just scored, which we'll touch on now. They're still touch and go with their output, but they look a lot more comfortable now. They look like they have more freedom. And, I think I've said it before, we got Vipotnik playing game after game, and we're getting the ball into his feet and it's sticking to him like glue and is bringing others into it. And all of a sudden, you're just playing to people's strengths. And we've got 3 solid results against, they're not teams that are struggling by any means, Borough, Blackburn and Preston. And we're safe, aren't we? I think the last pod, we were very much in the relegation battle, and now it's perceivable we could lose every single game we've got left and still stay up. So well done to Sheehan.
Yeah.
We'll get into the debate of should he stay or not, which I don't think he should. But well done to him, instant impact. And
wow, that's a bit of a like, what's the word? Like you're giving all your cards away straight away.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it'll be a nice calm end of the season now, which I think we all would rather than the opposite end, which would be in a relegation battle.
Just to pick up on your point of us being safe there, we're on 44 points in 16th place as it stands. Bear in mind, we're recording this on the 11th, which is Tuesday night. We haven't yet played Watford. By the time you're watching or listening to this, we might have already played Watford. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to get this out, but just want to say that, or like when you're watching it, it might have already happened. We don't know the result of that game yet, so we're on 44 points at the time of recording in 16th place. There are a couple of games currently being played at the moment, but we are sitting 9 points as it stands, ahead of Derby, who are currently winning as it stands. So what's the score in that game at the moment?
1-0.
Is it? Yeah. So if that remains the score. We're 9 points clear. So I think we probably are safe, but I think probably it's one more win. But I think we will get at least one more win by the end of the season. I think that one more win is the getting over the line result, if that makes sense. Because 45 I had as my target. I'm obviously 1 point short of that right now. Lee, what are your thoughts then?
Yeah, well, I think Ben's hit the nail on the head. Really, I think it's always interesting when one manager goes to see like the reaction of the players, and that's what I was really looking at, like particularly in the Blackburn game, just to see if the like the body language was different. Because the way that we were playing under Williams, I think like we were probably heading for relegation the way it was going, the form we were in. And then to Sheehan's first game, it was a completely different team. If we'd come out and carried on that form, even with the change of manager, then there would have been real concerns. But like Ben said, I think it clearly showed that they weren't playing for him, and they were happy that he was gone. Because some players, and I think I would say Vopotnik in particular, just looks like a different animal. We weren't getting anything out of him before under Williams, and now he just looks like a completely different player. Like Ben said, playing to his strength. The first game against Blackburn, he was everywhere. He was throwing his body everywhere, holding the ball up. And then, like I was thinking of the Middlesbrough game in particular, he seems to be getting more and more shots off from outside the box. He's got a hell of a strike on him. So I think he's just a couple of little tweaks that he's made. It looks like we're having a lot less possession. I think the stats back that up as well. We're having a lot less possession in the couple of games that Sheehan's been in charge, but we look a bit more threatening. I just think, and the energy's up, the tempo is just so much better. It's not slow, it's not laboured. I think that's helped, like Ben said, with the full backs sort of going back to the way that they were playing out wide, and it's just been a lot better. I think, just in all fairness to him, he's just getting the best out of the players.
Vopotnik had one shot on target against Blackburn. Obviously, he scored a goal, didn't he, against Blackburn?
Yeah.
So one shot on target, 2 shots blocked in that game. It says he missed 2 big chances as well. I didn't realise. And 2 shots on target against Middlesbrough with 2 shots blocked as well. So just getting 3 or 4 shots away in a match, I think, is just an improvement, basically.
Yeah, but even
what you just said.
Yeah, even away from the box as well, he's just way more involved. Like, he's dropping deep sometimes and playing the ball off, and he's holding off defenders. And I think if you think of like the Pete Harris goal against Blackburn, when he like comes deep and holds off the defenders, and for Pete Harris to like kind of take the ball off and run through, he's just way more involved. He's a completely different player.
I think it's the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that he's started 3 games in a row as well.
Yeah, because I think like in the last couple of games, like Williams, well, even I'd say the last like 4 or 5 games, he wasn't playing Vopotnik at all, was he? He was on the bench all the time, It seemed like. And then as soon as Sheehan comes in, he's been starting every game. So that was interesting.
Because he changed the formation, didn't he? So he kind of got rid of the Cullen ended up moving into even a striker role towards the end.
Yeah.
After Grimes left and we went to a 5. I have an immediate question, because he has the first thing he's done is change back to a back 4. Now, the first thing Luke Williams did when Grimes went, and obviously he said the importance of losing Grimes and how we have to adapt our game to that. First thing he did to do that was change the formation. Do you think this is like a sort of like, well, no, you're wrong, mate, sort of move? Because I just found it very interesting that the second he's gone out the door, we've gone back to a 4-2-3-1 with the midfield options that Luke Williams had after Grimes left, and has immediately got a tune out of him.
I think they could have got any formation under Luke Williams. I think it was just a slippery slope, and it was all going to fall apart no matter what they did. But I do agree with you that other than the Bristol City game where we rode our luck a bit and got a nice result, the 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it, it was shocking, really, wasn't it? Like Ronaldo wing back and things that just didn't work. It was amazing. We had like 2 strikers and both of them looked lost, as if they were still playing a 4-2-3-1 and weren't getting involved. But this is probably the best shape for us. I think the big thing is O'Brien, if we're being honest. I'm not sure this works if O'Brien isn't there. Because what's the alternative? You've got Fulton and you've got Franco, and I don't want to dig Fulton now. I know we've had this debate so many times. I think it's also the lack of minutes he's getting. He does look a little bit lost every time he plays now because he doesn't have that continuity like he normally would have. And I think the system has changed a bit, so it's not as simple for him to slot straight back in like he normally would. Obviously, Allen would be a good choice as well, but he's barely a 60-minute player, let alone a 90-minute player nowadays when he's fit. So yeah, without O'Brien, I think we're struggling. But luckily we have him, so that's what they play into, and it's worked.
I think since Sheehan's taken over as well, it just seems like a lot different to me. He's not kind of like, even O'Brien is not kind of dropping in that deep to take it off the centre halves. I think like Darlin and Cabango have been kind of being a bit more direct in the way that they either spread it wide early. Like I saw Darlin look for those like long balls, like the Ashley Williams to Dyer ball we always used to see when he used to just ping it wide. I've seen that a lot more, and then maybe like Vapotnik coming deep and then playing it into him early, rather than slowing it right down. Grimes or O'Brien now drops right in deep, and they just build slowly from the back. I think it's a bit more direct. I don't know. People might disagree with me on that, but that's what it seemed like.
No, they're
I think
playing
it's a
to
bit
their
direct, yeah.
strengths. Sorry,
Yeah.
they're playing to their strengths, and they're doing the simple things right. So what you're saying with Vapotnik, they're doing double movement of him. Normally it'll be Cullen behind, it could be someone else. But Vapotnik will drop in, Cullen will run beyond. So that he draws the centre back with him, he usually leaves somebody like Cullen in space. Franco, when he picks up the ball, he's usually breaking up play. He doesn't hold on to it for too long. He picks up the ball, he spreads it straight out to whoever's out wide, whether it's the fullback or winger. O'Brien, when he picks up the ball, he's a brilliant dribbler with the ball. He runs with it very quickly and keeps it in close control. So the second he has any 2 yards of space in front of him, he'll drive with it. Same with Timon. Again, everyone has their own strengths. They're all doing them. They're all playing to them, So I think it's just, like you say, it's reset. It's back to basics. It's 4-2-3-1 nowadays. That's the most bog standard formation. There is no real 4-4-2, 4-3-3 flat anymore, is it? That is the go-to when you just want to do the simple things right in English football anyway. And that's what they've done. And I think it's exposed probably. We've bashed the attacking quality of the team a lot this season. There are some holes in it. Ronald and have, what was it, like 2 goals combined or whatever still. But there is some quality there, not more quality than like bottom of the table, like relegation zone. You know what I mean? It is like probably a mid-table sort of attack when it all comes together nice, like it has the last 3 games, as long as you've got a solid defense behind it. Because we're not going to score 3 or 4 goals on average a game like Leeds are. We don't have that. But if we can hold teams like a goal a game on average, then we give ourselves a decent chance of what we got going forward.
I think the attack, I said it though, like I said it from the beginning of the season. I thought partly the issue with our attack was the tactics that they were being asked to play. We'll only really get a proper answer to that question over a longer sample size. But I do think they look a bit more comfortable with the way they're being asked to attack now. Whereas I think it was being coached into them a bit too much to, like, say you've got the balance of taking a risk and making a play and making an attack versus maintaining possession. I think the sliding bar on that scale was a bit too focused on maintaining possession. So you had the wingers getting into the corners and then looking to always come back rather than actually do a bit of damage. And then when they try to do damage, because they've been camped in the opposition half for the last, 10 to 20 phases of play, just passing it around, they'll just put a bad cross in because the team statically defended the one striker in the box for the last 2 minutes without having to be tested. And then you're asking Ronald or Pert Harris or whoever it is to find the most pinpoint accurate cross onto the head of whoever's standing there. And they don't do that. They're not good enough probably to do that. And to be fair, a lot of players in world football probably aren't, in a way to create an opportunity from that sort of static environment. And I think they come across as looking perhaps a bit worse than what they could be. And I guess that affects confidence as well. So it's probably a bit of a multiplier effect with a lot of those things. And we'll never really know for sure. Well, we will know for sure one day, but I guess it needs a bit more time if it's Sheehan or whoever else comes in to try their new way of playing. I think if we see the same poor performances from them consistently, then maybe we can say, okay, we do need to upgrade. But I think they deserve another chance in a new way of playing to show, if they got a bit more of a future here. For example, obviously got his first goal against Preston.
Borough.
Borough. I think he definitely wasn't the same after his injury, whether he lost a bit of a spark or whatever. I don't know. He looked a bit exciting at the start of the season and that's fizzled out. I think it's hopefully going to come back a bit now. But what I thought was quite interesting, his goal, he wasn't playing obviously in the middle in that game. He was kind of in the middle at that moment, and there was a good defensive header back upfield from a clearance by Darlin that just landed at in the central attacking midfield role that he just found himself in. I think Vapotnik had gone out wide at that moment and Cullen had gone up top. They'd moved around a bit. And he just turned with the ball, saw a gap, ran into it, ran at the defence, and obviously got his goal. It was a really good goal. We tried him in that role, in the cam role, earlier in the season, and we didn't really get a tune out of him. But I think he was signed to play there, wasn't he? He got given a number 10 for a reason. That's why they originally signed him, to look at filling that void. And maybe that's a glimpse of what he can offer if we can get him to play in that role more often. I say we tried him there early in the season. We did it once or twice and then wrote it off very quickly, to be fair. And I'm just wondering, in a different way of playing, where he's not so much under pressure of like retaining the possession under pressure from other defenders, because it's so tight, because they're camped in deep. So when you're receiving the ball, you're always under pressure. Maybe now there's a bit more space in the way that we're playing now, with a less of a focus on that possession, rather than now all of a sudden there is an opportunity for him to move in field, because he's got his first goal of the season, just finding himself there and looking at that situation and making something out of it. And I think maybe that's where he's probably better. He's done it a few times from out wide and been unlucky to not score. It was good to see him get one in. I think he was close to the free kick, wasn't he? Not in the last game too. So
Yeah, the Preston game.
it's been coming. It's been coming.
Obviously, it's really good to see him get a goal finally. You can see how much it meant to him, the way he celebrated as well. Very unlucky not to have scored against Preston. Also, it was a good free kick under the wall, grazed the side netting. In regards to him playing a cam, obviously, I think this one goal in particular, it was a loose ball where the defence wasn't set because Borough thought they had the ball. This wasn't the same Borough side we played on the opening day either. They spanked us on the opening day. Only beat us 1-0, but should have been more like 3-0 if we're being honest. I predicted Borough to win 2-0 in this game and didn't realise quite how bad they were. I'm starting to understand why the Carrick out shouts have been happening the last month or so, because they looked a mess off the ball. Not to take away from our performance, but we should just, use some caution. Whether ends up being a cam, I don't know. Like Ollie Cooper can't get a start at the minute, so I feel like the 11 at the minute is set, if we're being honest.
It's Cullen, isn't it, at the moment? But I think he's there from the way the season has gone. I don't think he should stay there.
Well, we got a Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday now, so maybe we'll see some rotation. Who knows? Like the Preston game,
I'm not saying immediately drop him, but like that can't be the future. I don't think.
Even though we got a good result against Preston, that wasn't the best of performances, if we're being honest. It was scrappy away from home against a team who were good playing at home, so not to discredit us. But yeah, like we could have easily lost that. We didn't really offer any real attacking threat. The two home performances, on the other hand, Blackburn in particular, we blew Blackburn away. So, despite their league position, it's a good Borough side, and we outclassed them as well. One thing I wanted to point out is, have you seen possession stats for the 3 games?
I'll pull them up for you now if you want.
Well, no, I've got them. I was just asking.
It's a lot lower, isn't it?
Yeah.
I noticed one of them was below 50, the last game on it.
So it's 51, 46, 40.
Yeah, and I think Luke Williams' last game against Stoke was about 60.
Luke Williams at home a lot of the time was 60 odd 70, wasn't it? But point being, we're creating more chances, so
But we've said this for ages.
Yeah. I've been banging this drum for a while. I think this is a bit of a crossroads moment as well, isn't it? Because for me personally, I think this possession football is dead for a minute. Well, I think dead is probably the wrong word, but football comes in phases.
Hibernating.
So I think if people like desperately want us to play like the Swansea way, which is just constant 60+% possession, I said it ages ago. This is football that we played 10 years ago.
We still, I think, as a fan base, still hang on to the fact that we need to have this, possession football and playing football that we were playing 10 years ago, this Swansea way. And I think the game has moved on. I think the best teams that I've seen over the last couple of seasons, Ipswich were brilliant. They were just so direct. They attacked with numbers. Sunderland were the same. And I think you're even seeing it now at the top. Like Man City have been struggling. Obviously, they're still a good side. But then you see in teams like Forest, who I think have the least possession in the Premier League, and they're third in the league. I think the game has just totally moved on. And the fact that we were like desperately trying to still play this 60% possession game just wasn't working. And even like under Williams, when he was doing it, it's just so easy for teams to defend against. And now you've seen this, Sheehan's come in, he's gone under 50%, and we've probably played our best 3 games. Well, maybe not Preston, but the best 2 home games.
Yeah, but like, the performance of Preston might not be the same as the other 2, but we're coming away with a clean sheet and a draw away. That's the foundation for any successful season: win your own games and don't lose away.
Yeah, but it's the ability to change. The last couple of managers that we have are being possession football, and that's all we're going to do. But now, like you can see in the 3 games that Sheehan played, I'm not saying like Sheehan is football masterclass manager, but we played 3 different games. We go away to Preston. They just come off a big win in the cup where they'd beaten Burnley 3-0 at home, and it's always a hard place to go. Pitch is awful. And they just found a different way to play. They had to just grind out a result. So to get a point away from home and win your 2 home games, that's like promotions chasing. And it's not just needless possession football.
Yeah, it's an interesting one when you look at what's coming out from the club. It seems to be when we want to go for a new manager now, there's been some things, or there could be a foreign appointment, but the primary thing they're saying is, I'll be possession based again. It's like you say, it's a crossroads moment, because possession based can be one of 2 things. Like, just because you got a lot of possession doesn't mean you can't still try and be direct. You can be so controlling and have a lot of possession and you're direct, but most of the time we've seen more possession means a lot of passing around the back and sideways, typically.
I think they just think possession means patience, doesn't it? And I think Lee hit the nail on the head. Teams these days just know how to defend against it now, which means you're relying more so on your individual quality, and we probably can't afford that now, to the point where what you need to make it work at this level.
Because we've seen what happens when they rip up the game plan entirely and go Michael Duff, don't we? Like, the fan base just rejects it, even if the league position wasn't the worst we've seen. Like, nobody was going for it, particularly because of the way we recruited and what was going on at the top as well. But you don't have to rip it up, do you? You can sort of like find that happy medium where, okay, we got a bit less of the ball, but we're still going to play nice football. We're not just going to be lobbing it forward all the time. So if they can find that transition to a more modern style, maybe they need to go for it now. Because we are, like, the general trend, we covered it last time. I know things are looking peachy at the minute, but the general trend since relegation is we're getting worse year on year. The way we're going, innit?
Yeah, I do
definitely.
think this, like, these last 3 games shown the squad is definitely just a mid-table squad. It's not. I don't think it's quite as bad as some of the teams below us that we might have. Cardiff just conceded.
No, they're winning. Oh, they may have just become 1-1. You mean, is it?
Yeah. Sorry, train of thought went there. Just saw them move down the league table.
Yeah, they did. Derby are 2-0 up against Coventry, though, so that's nuts.
Yeah, well, they were getting ahead of themselves, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, I think we are mid-table, but there's teams that are definitely worse below us, and this has just highlighted that because not easily, but like maybe we've fixed something that wasn't working, and they've just pulled themselves away from that a little bit now. In 3 games, essentially. So, but yeah, this is definitely a good foundation for whoever comes in. They just need to make that decision correctly. I'm just a bit concerned that Coleman, obviously the way they brought Duff in, that didn't work, and then he kind of made such a big point of saying how he's learned his lessons. We're going to try and do it by the Swansea way. They went out and headhunted Luke Williams. They took the time to get him, and he was the right man. I'm just worried that he'll be too concerned about the fan, like what we just said, the fan focus on this Swansea way when he's looking for the manager. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, and you can't blame
rather than
him
making the right. No, I don't blame him, but I think
No.
the way that the fan base has been over the last few years and the outcry that happened after Michael Duff is I just think he's going to have some anxiety making that decision because of that. That's all.
We just need some excitement, don't you think?
I'm just cautious that that's going to affect the correct decision being made, because he's going to try and over cater to what he thinks people want rather than maybe what we need.
You can understand why you think that, because of how poorly people reacted to Duff, as I mentioned.
I just think turn your social media off. Like,
well, the way I see it going, I think I'll say I told you so. I do like saying it. It's only a pod, it's fine. I said Alan Sheehan will come in. You'll get 1 or 2 results, which he has. He'll stay to the end of the season, which he will. Probably not confirmed yet, but realistically now, it's a bit pointless replacing him with a full-time manager with 10 games to go when we can't go up or down. What realistically will happen now is we'll get to the summer and the rumours seem to suggest we'll look for a foreign manager, and it is just somebody who needs to come in with an entertaining style, hopefully a young manager on the up, because season ticket renewals are way down and the prices aren't even terrible on them, to be honest. So we do just need something to give us a lift, give fans a reason to turn up, because if it's just another manager from League One who's going to play the same slow passive football, which is they all come in and say, "Oh, we're going to play expansive, we're going to be quick," and it never ends up looking like that on the pitch at all. It's always 60-odd% possession. Like, everyone raised with Russell Martin. He gave us his moments. He did the double and all that, and there were some periods we looked class, but then there was far too many periods where it was just sideways, backwards, no shots on target.
If you take
we
the
need
double
entertainment.
away, how does the opinion change?
Say again. If you take the double
if you
away,
take the 4 games against Cardiff away,
then
how does that opinion change?
Well, okay, that's a good question. So take that double away. What's your most memorable moment from that era?
Drawing 4-4 at Reading.
What's your most memorable good moment from that era? Apart from
No,
the
but that's
double?
I think
that's
that
the point.
game
I'm agreeing with you.
highlighted that
Yeah.
era for. We went to that game, and it was ecstatic when you were 4-1 up, and then it was the most deflated journey home I've ever had in my life.
Because there was too
And
many
that
games.
That was his tenure in a game.
Yeah, there was too many games like that. The worst one for me that I saw was a midweek game. We were 2-0 up against Millwall in the 91st minute, and we conceded 2 own goals in like
2 own goals.
Yeah, and we should have been 4 or 5-0 up in that game. We battered them, and that's what the tenure was. Like you say, we batter teams. Somehow, it was a common theme. It must have been like where we were shooting from and bodies on the line or something. I don't know, but we'd always create like good chances and never bury them. And
Trying
we'd be
to pass into the net, probably.
And we could be 2-3-0 up. And you like now, one thing, Luke Williams, we weren't often 2 goals up under Luke Williams, I'm not saying, but when we went like 2-0 up in like recent times, I don't get that feeling of, we're going to chuck it away anymore. I don't. We look under Sheehan now, we look pretty secure at 1-0, don't we? Like Barra didn't trouble us too much. Under Russell Martin, go 2-3 up. You're just waiting to concede still, weren't you?
Yeah.
Like, so when people rave on Twitter, I'd love him back. It was such a brilliant time for 2 years for him. I'm like, no, it wasn't. We had such a good team as well. That's the thing that people forget. You had like Ryan Manning, Hannes Wolf, Prime Cyrus Christie, you had Obafemi, Perot, Flynn Downs. Like, we had such a good team, such a good squad, like lacking in certain areas, sure, but better than what we have now. And we weren't getting any better results, really, were we? What did we finish? 14th and 10th, wasn't it?
Well, we're on course to have the same sort of finish.
Points total, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's been a really disjointed, poor season.
And this is what happened last year as well.
Well, that was every
year.
year.
Last year.
We always have this discussion around game week 35 or 6, don't we? Like, if we didn't go on that run where we had 1 win in 10, or under Russell Martin, I think it was it 3 wins in 22, and all 3 wins were against 10 men.
Like that,
it was, and how we, looking back, how we lasted through that is crazy. Because most managers don't last through 3 wins in 22, let alone the context. Like one of those games, we beat Blackpool 1-0 at home, and it was one of the worst teams I'd seen down there in a while, Blackpool. They went down to 10 men, still only crept over the line 1-0. We'd won a game of football and booed them off. That's the first time I'd ever seen that happen. So when people talk about all these good memories, that's a core memory. It's us booing our team after we beat them, after we won a game. So, we need to wake up a bit.
I'm sick of seeing it like all the time. And if you call it out these days, you're just like, oh yeah, look at you just calling out, you're just saying this like to get attention and all this. It's like the divide of like, if you say that's bad, you're this thing, and if you are one of them, they like, oh, you're just going to say I'm part of a cult. It's like, just move on. No other manager in history has had this. I don't know what even the word is, like this following after they've not been here for 2 years following. At this point.
Like on Twitter, it's
he
like
didn't even do well after he left us. He got promotion with the team that was most likely to get promoted,
and then he probably created the worst Premier League team of all time. One of them.
Yeah,
you only just went up with Southampton as well. You only just went up. They just snuck in at the end.
Yeah, it was playoffs. For me, they had the best. I don't know squad, but a starting 11. I said at the start of the season,
they 100% had the best squad last year. We called it. We said at the beginning of the season because they lost the least amount of their Premier League players, didn't they?
Yeah.
And the ones that they did lose, they sold for megabucks.
Like, what I was going to say, they had top. I'm not saying they didn't have top 3 squad, but what I was going to say was, for me, if you look just purely the starting 11, they had the best starting 11 in the league. For me, you could put their best 11 players out. There wasn't a single player in that team who wasn't like a top 3 player, really. Like,
so, does anyone think Ryan Manning's Premier League quality?
No, but I think that shows a divide in it. For me, he probably was a top 3, top 4 player last season at left back. He was. But he got up to the Premier League, and he's like Flynn Downs. He was getting touted for England. He's gone up to the Premier League. They were on about loaning him to Ipswich. Premier League rival, I'm not saying, but if you can't like regularly perform, it just goes to show like what the gap in the quality between the 2 leagues is now. Perot, along with Josh Sargent, probably best strikers in the league this season. Sargent couldn't get to the barn door when he was in the Prem. Perot,
Yeah.
You give him a half a second on the ball, he'd be dispossessed. Perot, you've seen it. He does it in the Championship sometimes. Premier League, he'd get eaten alive. That's just the reality of it now. There's very few people who are going to make the jump in quality between the two leagues now. It'll be like 20, 21-year-olds who have only had a season of football. And the reason they'll cope when they go to the Premier League is because they'll get better. But anyone in their prime in the Championship, they're not going to be cut out for it anymore. They can't make that jump.
Yeah, that's a bigger question in itself.
Yeah.
That divide. But like back on him, I mean, I don't know if we ended up on him again, but I'm just sick of seeing fans just constantly crawling back to him.
I think
it needs to just stop now. Just move on.
Yeah, but I think to be honest, I hate even talking about it now. But I actually do think that it is a problem because, like you said, I think Coleman is going to be worried about who he appoints if he's not in that mantra, if he's not in that same mold. It's one of the reasons why Duff failed. Is because he had to follow Russell.
100%. He didn't help himself either.
I'll
hold my hands up to that. I've defended him loads, but I completely agree with you. Yeah. He was never going to succeed after whoever was next.
Whoever followed him would have struggled just because of the look. And I mean, again, I hate going back to him, but I think like the fact he done the double was massive, and I think that is obviously that's obviously why people still love him and follow him. But like you said, it's just not. It's just move on. We got to move on. But there was murmurs of it as well when we had Cooper, because if we didn't have Cooper had the COVID season, and we said it on here, if he didn't have if we didn't have the lockdown and we had fans in the stadium, we wouldn't have got to the playoff final. Because
we went on a run, didn't we, after the restrictions lifted?
But we were in like a promotion battle at one point, and I just remember seeing Twitter like, get this man out of the club because he plays terrorist football. And I was like, we're like third or fourth in the league. I just don't understand. Just because he wasn't playing like really good possession football.
And that was after we didn't sign a striker in January, when Jordan Morris came in and got injured as well, and we were struggling to score goals. I think it was the second season towards the end. We had a bit of a dip in form before the playoffs. And did we finish sixth in the end?
First season we finished sixth. Second season we finished fourth.
All right, yeah, but I think in January we were looking in contention for the automatics.
Yeah, we were.
And then we slipped out of that a bit because maybe our business wasn't what we needed. And it was just a massive overreaction to it because it was a little bit of a dip.
We were playing awful football, like truly awful football.
Yeah, and we might have been, but we
needed the context. We needed the context of the fact that we ended on 78 points or whatever it was. We haven't got anywhere near that since, put it that way, have we? And I realise you could argue we played some better football at times to watch.
Yeah,
anyway.
And he was relying on Jamal Lowe and Andre Ayew up front, and maybe towards the end of the season, it was difficult to keep relying on those two without having a proper striker, because maybe teams knew how to deal with that now. And we didn't have another option, and he done the best he could with those tools, I guess.
Well,
like I said,
he had a £120 million striker on his bench, but I digress.
No, at that point he didn't, because he went back in January.
Right, but you see, but he had him for 6 months. I decided he wasn't good enough, so he went back, so we needed a striker.
No, but wasn't that was when we were doing well, though. So, like, he couldn't get in the team when we were doing well. Like, the dip happened after he'd gone, is what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, sorry, Lee, I was just going to say, like, he's going to be a future world-class striker, and you had a striker who wasn't even a striker in Jamal.
But then Brighton also let him go for pittance, didn't they? So it wasn't like he was the only one that failed to see that. That's crazy. I would like to see how he would do if he went to the Prem.
He'll end up there at some point, won't he?
Yeah, he will. He will come back.
Sorry, Lee, you were going to say.
No, I just going back to that again. I think just give me a manager now that can look at a squad of players, which is what we need with the squad that we have and the resources that we have now. Give me a manager that can come in and be like, right, this is what I got. This is what I need to do to be successful. Not whatever team we have, we're going to have 70% possession, even if we've got Bashir Humphreys at centre back and he's got to try and pass it around. And that was an absolute disaster. Who was the one that came from Liverpool? Was it Reece Williams, was it?
Yeah.
Reece Williams, Finley Burns. There's been quite a few on there.
But give me a manager that's just going to come in and be like, right, I've got, like we were talking about earlier, play into the strength. I've got Vipotnik, I've got Cullen, I've got these players. This is what I need to do to make us successful and win games. Fine. If we got to go to Preston on Tuesday night and drag out a 0-0, fine, no problem. Not, oh, I got to play possession football and then beat my chest to the crowd and great, and everybody loves me forever. Just, we've got to move on. Got to move on. Game's moved on. It's just doing my head in. I know a lot of people probably watching now are probably used to like louder up, and yeah, you had that, and that was outstanding.
Yeah, but the players
gone.
allowed are bad.
It's gone.
Was
It's
like
gone.
different
It's gone.
game. That was different world.
But yeah, not only has the game moved on, what people forget as well is you look back at that starting 11, and all of them were there were quite a lot of top half players in there. We made them top half players. I'm not saying, but Dyer, Routledge in their prime, Pablo Hernandez in his prime, Michu, Boney when he came
He
in.
signed Pablo Hernandez, who had been to a World Cup with Spain or Euros with Spain, whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
I know he only had 4 caps, but Spain was the epitome of that style of football, and he had 4 caps for them.
Ashley
And we
Williams,
signed him.
Ashley Williams, who would have been making England squads if he was,
No, but
chose England
if
when
we-
he was younger. Ben Davis, Rangel, who was probably what was he, like 4th or 5th, maybe 6th in line for Spain, which at right back, that is saying something. I'm just Vorm, like
But
there
we
were so
were-
many good players there.
Yeah, and we were ahead of the game when we did that. When we moved to possession football, we were ahead of the game. We were the first kind of team to do it. And when we went up to the Prem at that time, we were the first team that actually kind of went up and said, right, we're gonna play and we're gonna try and go at teams and we're gonna just carry on playing this way. And it was refreshing and it worked. But imagine trying to do that now. If we operate on the
Southampton.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to say. Southampton are the prime example. We have got half the squad that Southampton have got. Now, if everybody gets what they want, and we bring back Russell Martin and we play that football, and even if we snuck into the playoffs and went up, God help us playing that football in the Premier League with our squad.
We'd
Or
have
potential
single-digit
squad that we
points.
could have.
We wouldn't reach 10 points. We wouldn't.
Well, because it's moved on. It's moved on. I know there's a big disparity in the quality now in the Prem, and and the Championship. But you go up and play that type of football now, and you are stuffed. And I think it's happening in the Championship. You try and play that football like we have been trying to do now, like under Williams. It just doesn't work. It's easy to defend against, and teams know how to play against it.
Like the only way it works is if you've got such good quality players that you overwhelm the opposition to the point where you pin them in. Like that's what Leeds do. Burnley do it slightly differently, where they grind out, like they just stop all opposition.
But Burnley barely score goals.
This is the thing. They sort of just suffocate the opposition to the point where they don't get shots on goal, and then they do just enough to score and get themselves over the line themselves. They had 13 clean sheets in a row.
Conceded 11 goals all the season. That's crazy.
That's mental. That is a mental stat. But then the stat made me laugh last night. I can't remember if I said it earlier, but like you look at Forest. I think Forest are bottom for average possession in the Premier League, and they're 3rd in the league. So it just goes to show that it's not all. There's just the game's moved on quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I just one day I just went on my Twitter and not see that. I just want the new manager to be announced at some point, just so people can stop saying bring him back, or can he just get a different job somewhere?
He's having lovely
not
severance
available
pay right now. Premier League money.
Going to Rangers apparently. I heard.
Is he? Oh,
he's been linked there. Yeah.
Fair.
He was on the telly when that's why everyone's talking about him again. He was on the telly.
Oh, right.
The other day
fair enough. They pop up on the TV and then they're in a job not long after. It's usually the way it works, isn't it?
No, but that's why everyone's saying about Hugh. And I don't like the way they dig out Coleman on the board as well about like do the right thing. It's like that's what bring back the guy that you sued. Yeah. That's the right thing for the club, is it? Like no matter what you think of whoever it is, if something like that's happened at that level in a club, you're just not going to see him again.
Yeah,
from both sides. Why would he want to come back?
I think we've got to move on ourselves as well. Like we get drawn back into it a lot, don't we? Just because. But like I was talking about this the other day, and I said I actually don't dislike him. Like great, he gave us the double, and then he moved on. If it wasn't for this, like
this is what makes me
get frustrated with him. You have to kind of go against it then, because you're getting it so much from the other way. Like, oh, please bring it back. Then you're like, oh, hang on. And it seems like we're really negative. But if you weren't getting this constant onslaught of like Russell Martin being thrown in your face, probably just would look at him differently and think, yeah, it was fine. It wasn't great. We did the double, which was brilliant. And we moved on.
We need to just start counter tweeting it all with like pictures of Steve Cooper or who else is available these days? Chuck Muggle up there. What's he doing at the moment? Gary Monkey's available, and we'll just say bring him.
Do you know
on.
what best solution
highest
would be?
points in Swansea history or whatever was highest league finish ever. Bring him home.
Better
Do the right
solution would
thing.
be just go on Twitter and mute the words Russell Martin. Be a hell of a timeline then.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't go on there that much these days, to be honest. It's gone weird over there, I think. But I don't know what is the social media everyone uses these days. They got all that blue sky now. Is that
I don't think
off,
that's taken off, is it?
what's that? I heard that.
It's
meant to be old Twitter, isn't it?
Oh,
I
right.
don't know. I made an account for us to seal the name, but I've barely gone on there. And then you've got Threads, there's another one. Twitter just seems dead compared to what it used to.
I mean, people use TikTok. I refuse, though. I feel like I'm only 23, but it feels like a different generation thing, if I'm honest.
I like a bit of TikTok.
How do you think we feel, Ben?
Oh, well, boys, I'm not being funny, right? Like, I renewed my car insurance last week, right? And it went down £270. I went around all the house telling my family how much I saved on it. I felt like a proper old man. I was
£270?
Yeah, I did. It's a lot of money. The point being, it still
That's a good saving in the year. That is.
It still cost me
400
$400
up these days.
I know it still cost me 400 though. It's because I've just turned 23, so I think
400.
Yeah, I still paid 407. It was, but I paid £407. That's gone from my bank, and I was happy.
And that's for a year. Yeah? Is that for a year? Or is it for like 9 months?
A year.
That's good. That is.
That's very good. Yeah, I've crashed somehow, see. So long may that continue.
I think mine is like. There's 2 of us to drive, and house insurance is linked onto it. I think we haven't got the lowest option because we've got some of the add-ons, but it's like 12k for the year. Not 12k, sorry, 1200.
I was going to say, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, bloody hell. I got.
I'll take some commission off you.
I think my car insurance for my old car was like 260 quid or something.
A year.
Yeah.
To be fair, my car's probably not the cheapest to insure, but I got with the house insurance linked on. Like it's like £100 a month or just under £100 a month. So
this is where it's mental, though. See, you got this side of my life where I'm celebrating paying car insurance, and I went down to I don't know what game it was. I think it was Blackburn, and in the East Stand, you got to be either 16 or 18 to go in. And the guy on the low asked me, "Oh, how old are you?" I was like, "I'm 23." In the deepest voice possible. He started laughing. "Oh, sorry, mate. It's a compliment." I'm like, did you honestly think I was like 16, 17?
I got ID'd the other day.
No, you didn't.
Oh, I never get ID'd.
No, genuine. I was shocked. I looked at the woman. She was like, "Got to challenge 25 these days." I was still like,
I bet you were chuffed.
When Nia said that to me, but I was just like, should I feel chuffed to that? I feel a bit more offended these days.
Really?
I mean, it's a good thing, but
I'd love it. I never get ID'd anymore. Sometimes I go on work.
I think it's because I wasn't prepared for it. I was like, I don't even know when.
Well, you don't help. You're like 6'2", 6'3", or whatever. To be fair,
yeah, but this was the worst one I ever had, and this is the mother of all side tracks. But I went to go on work dues, and there's people who are kind of probably by your age, Ben, and a couple of people who are my age as well. Everybody went in and they ID'd everyone, and I was at the back. And they literally got to me at the end and went, "Nah, mate." I was like, "You could have just ID'd me because you ID'd everyone else. You could have just done it, couldn't you?" And he just looked at me and went, "Nah." He must have ID'd about 15 people, and then got to me and went, "Nah."
I had the opposite. See, it was really embarrassing. I was on year in industry or uni, and obviously I was 21. Everyone else in the company, apart from one guy, was 24, 25, maybe a bit older. And then it was like you said, a queue of 12 people at the bar, get around in. And he looked across this entire group of people, the bartender, and he saw me at the back. I wanted his ID, and he only ID'd me out of 12 people. And luckily I had it, otherwise we would have left. But I was thinking of that. Obviously I looked under 18 or whatever at that point in time. But come on, you could have at least asked somebody else for their ID to make me feel a bit better.
Sorry, I think why I got offended was because when she ID'd me, she also asked for my birthday. Which is that's another level.
That's like GDPR, mate.
And this is and also it was when we were in Tesco's with the 2 kids buying Calpol.
Oh right, hold on. So she had the ID and she was testing you.
Well, she was. I think I don't look like my picture anymore. But do you know what I mean? That's why I was a bit like, what the
Calpol for the kids, bloody hell.
Yeah, that's what I was like. It wasn't even for beer or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's a bit.
That's where a lot of that is, to be fair. Tesco, was it Lance Hamlet?
I don't know where it was, to be honest. Anyway, we digressed a little bit there, which
Well,
that's fine.
it's because we said we're going to try and get this to an hour. And
we
stop
will
there, 'cause
get an
we-
hour
we
today.
ran
We've
over.
got one main thing to really look at. We kind of touched on it already, but
I've got another one actually, which is kind of on topic, which I was thinking. This is how old I am. I've got a massive collection of of programs, like Swans programs. They don't even do them anymore. But I like.
no, they do if you want them, don't they?
No, they're only
No.
digital now. They stopped them. But I've got I was having a bit of a sort out, and I've got about 5 or 6 massive industrial boxes of programs dating back to like the Vetch and all that, because I used to get them every game I used to go to. And I'm still missing, because I didn't get it on the day, I'm still missing our first Europa League game. I think it was Malmo was the first qualifier.
I wonder if I got that one, yeah.
And it's I think it's got Jonathan de Guzman on the front. I know which one it is. I've literally got every program since I started
Is it
going
in the yellow and purple kit?
Yeah. And I've still got I've literally got every program since like I started going back in the Vetch. I've got all of them. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. They're just sat in boxes, but
I'm sure you can
I
get
know
them.
I'm still missing that one.
More for charity.
I'm still missing that one, and it really pains me because it was our first Europa League game. I think I forgot to get it at the time, and if I used to forget, I used to go down to the shop like in the week or the next game and pick up the ones I missed, but they'd run out obviously because it was the first Europa League game. So if anyone has that one
Drop
or a
us
spare,
comments.
don't look at programs.
Let us know.
I'm sure you can eBay that. Surely.
I might even have it. I'll have a look.
And I know what it looks like. It's Jonathan de Guzman's on the front with the purple and yellow kit. I even know what it looks like, and I haven't got it.
Is it definitely Malmo? It's not Petrolol, is it?
No, I think Malmo was the first qualifier. Petrolol was the second.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Okay.
But anyway, that was my plea.
Yeah. So out of the last 3 games, back to the football. Some news before we talk about the last topic we want to touch on. So Harry Darling obviously picked up an injury against Middlesbrough. I haven't seen the outcome of that yet, but I wouldn't expect him to feature against Watford. Anyone seen anything on that?
It's touch and go. You'll be assessed. Probably.
What was it? A hip injury, I heard, was it?
Yeah.
I think chances are it'll be Delcroix, whatever, midweek when he can't play against Burnley on the weekend.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, makes sense.
To be fair, I thought it was harsh when he got dropped. I know someone had to fall out when we changed back to a 4 at the back, but I felt a bit for him because I thought he'd done quite well since he come in.
Yeah. But then on the weekend, yeah, touch and go with Darling. Hopefully he plays, but there's no need to risk him, really, is there? They'll just do Norton and Christie for 60 and 30, if not.
What's that? Norton? What?
I'm saying if...
for Burnley, you mean?
Yeah, on the weekend, they'll just do Norton and Christie.
Yeah.
And Miles Peart-Harris got injured against Preston. I didn't see when I was watching the game. I don't think he showed on the camera what he actually did, but all of a sudden the camera panned to him and he was just crying. It turns out it was a back injury.
Yeah, it was a strange one, that was. Just, I didn't really see what happened.
I didn't have a clue. Like, obviously, because he was in pain and distraught, you could tell by his reaction. I think the reason he was probably upset was because he knew his season was over more than perhaps the pain he was in. Because he walked off the pitch, he looked okay when I was watching him walk off. I was like, he's not walking like somebody that has done something horrendous that you're not going to be playing in the next game. But apparently it's a back injury and he has gone back for rehab at Brentford. So, Sheehan said in his conference there was a chance he'd come back for the last few games of the season, but it seems that Peart-Harris has since confirmed that he has ended his time here. So, it was a shame because I think he was one of the ones that maybe was going to suit the change of manager a little bit more. And he seemed to have stepped up a little bit in the last couple of games and played quite well.
I think he's proven over a season he's good enough for the Championship. I think he started poorly, but in recent times he's grown to the level. He's got a year in his deal at Brentford, so what will happen there, I don't know. I can't see us going back in for him, but I
he's
think
also not a winger.
Somebody will. Yeah, I think
he's
somebody
also
will
not
come
a winger,
back in.
and he slow started probably because of that, and then he's adapted. So that's a good trait, surely, as well. Then being able to adapt to that position in a higher level than what he played at before.
I was a bit gutted because I've been a big fan of Peart-Harris. I think even though he's not a winger, I think he's been our best winger.
Yeah, this is what I mean though. Like, it's credit to him that he stood out.
Yeah.
When he's not technically he played there once or twice last season, I think, when he had to. Otherwise, he was camo more often number 8. So like, yeah, interesting, isn't it?
I'd have liked to have seen him get more game times. I think again, like before Williams got sacked, he was reluctant to play him as well. I think he didn't see the pitch like against like Cardiff and in big games like that. So I just thought he was.
I do wonder how much of that was a bit of like, and Williams alluded to it back in the summer that he wasn't his signing. He was a club signing, and he said this outright in the press conference, but then he also said like how good he was at the time. But then when things started going sour, he stopped using him.
Yeah, well, that says a lot about Williams, then, doesn't it? Because he was more productive than Ronald and so.
Yeah, it's bad news. It's a shame for him, but overall, he covered himself well in a tough season, I would say, and definitely he'll end up back at the level. On a brighter note, Luton the 2-1 up against Cardiff. I just wanted to chuckle in there.
Oh, nice!
Oh, wow!
So right now, as it stands,
it's Cardiff back into it.
Right now, as it stands, it's Hull in 1937, Stoke 36, Cardiff 36, Derby 35, Luton 34.
Oh God, there's a Cardiff fan in work with me, and he was literally saying in the canteen earlier, I was talking about the game, and he was like, "We'll win tonight, and then we're basically already staying up."
Someone said this to me the other day, and I haven't been able to shake it, that the 4 points that Cardiff picked up against us, they're going to keep them up. And
they'd be 23rd right now if it wasn't for those 4 points.
I know, yeah.
Even if we held on to the win in the home game, they'd be in the relegation zone.
They'd be 22nd.
But these are the games, though, they need to win, because I think they're playing all the teams around them at the moment, aren't they, in this period they're in now?
Yeah, I think they've got
Luton being one of them.
Yeah, this was a must-win, because Luton really are so bad. They really are.
If they lose to Luton,
that's a 6-pointer at the end of the day. Yeah. That's going to give Luton. That would give Luton 2 wins in the last 3. So that's a bit of a momentum shift down the bottom.
Luckily for them, they've only. Well, that's basically it for the 6-pointers now. To be honest, they've got Oxford and Stoke, but they could be safe by then. Stoke is one. Stoke is one. Yeah,
Oxford's probably a big one still.
The rest of them, though.
I mean, yeah, Oxford is still only 3 points ahead. So like Cardiff beating Oxford, they go level with Oxford. So if they win, they just drag Oxford back into it. So that is a 6-pointer. Because Oxford will see that as like, we win and we probably get ourselves out of it.
They're lucky, and I think Sheffield United are the only ones left now. They got to play with like right up there. They haven't got like Leeds, Burnley,
They've got Sheffield Wednesday, who are in the playoff hunt. Blackburn, who are in the playoff hunt.
Blackburn, though, come on, we just saw what they were like.
Yeah, but they went and won the game after, didn't they? QPR's probably a bit of a dud.
Derby beat Blackburn, on the weekend.
Preston mid-table. Stoke 6-pointer. Sheffield United fighting for the league. I mean, Oxford, it depends, isn't it? Because by this 3rd game from the end of the season, so you just don't know what situation they might be in at that point. And then West Brom might be fighting for playoffs and Norwich as well, right? It's probably not the worst run-in, I guess.
Plymouth are struggling now, though, aren't they? Because the teams around them have picked up and they're still stuck on 30.
They had their bounce and decided it was more valuable in the FA Cup.
It's mental, though, because we're looking at that saying, oh, yeah, they're gone now. But then they got the game in hand tomorrow, which if they win, they're back to 3 points off of the...
Who are they against?
That's a good question. Let's have a look.
They haven't won in 5.
Portsmouth away. Crucially, away.
That's the Portsmouth win and they're safe.
Yeah, Portsmouth at home is they're very good at home. Anyway,
we revived Portsmouth's season.
We literally did.
Yeah, they beat Leeds at home, though, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought we revived Cardiff season, to be honest, but clearly we didn't. And yeah, they did just beat Leeds at home. You're right, so that's a tough one. Score predictions.
Yeah, let's do them, and then I'm going to talk about Sheehan long term at the end, and then we'll call after that.
Right, so if you got okay. So recap, where are we? Blackburn, I think Lee went 3-0 to Blackburn. I went 1-0 to Blackburn. Luke went 1-1. So none of us really backed us there, which you can't really blame us, can you?
Have I said 1-1 3 games in a row? Jesus Christ.
Must have, yeah. To be fair, it's a common result, a common scoreline. Sorry. So
I guess what I was yesterday, Ben. I was on the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast last night.
Hell of a podcast.
And I don't know if you noticed this when you did your prediction with them earlier in the season, but when they did their prediction league, they got a few other categories of other people that get involved, like the dog, for example. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is just 1-1. So no one's allowed to pick 1-1
because it's so common.
Yeah, and they just tally up how many points that gets through the season.
The thing is, it probably is the most common scoreline, is it?
That's
Is that
good.
why
I
they
like
do
that.
it?
I think they said people were just picking all the time before, so they banned it and then started tallying it, and it is actually beating some of the people. So
I mean, you look
That's good. I
every
like that. Yeah.
you look every single week. Most of the time, there's a 1-1 in there on our prediction.
yeah, well,
Somebody
I
has said
tried
1-1.
picking 1-1, and they said I'm not allowed. I was like, oh,
All
great.
right, there we are.
So I have to go 2-2 instead. Which I
Preston,
don't think it's going to be 2-2.
yeah. Preston away. Lee went 2-0 to Preston. Luke went 1-1, and I went 2-1 to Preston. It was 0-0, so Luke picked up a correct result there. And then Middlesbrough home. Lee went 2-1 to the Swans. Luke again went 1-0. I went 2-0 to Borough, and it was 1-0 to Swans. So Lee picked up a correct result. I am on shocking form. I really am.
What's the points tally now?
So Luke's on 39. I'm on 36, and Lee's on 27. I haven't had a correct scoreline since Burnley away, and even that was a crappy penalty, which shouldn't have been a penalty right at the end.
Yeah, and I would have been on more points if you won for that, wouldn't I?
Yeah, correct result. I have to go back to Coventry at home, where I said Coventry would win. And to be fair, I got unlucky there. I said 3-0. It probably should have been 3-0, but anyway, I sound like Luke. So
You
Watford
sound
away.
like me more than me these days.
I know. So again, we're going to do Watford and we're going to do Burnley because we won't be another pod before Burnley on the weekend. So Lee, you're up first because you're lowest.
This thing about this Watford away. Let's go 2-1 Swans.
2-1 Swans.
That's-
I'm going to go
that's-
1-1. So Luke has to break his streak of 1-1s.
They are on really bad form. Watford are.
They are good at home though.
No, they've been horrendous at home.
All right, well, back the Swans then, Luke.
I said the same thing yesterday on the podcast because I thought this as well. I can't remember what it is now. I think they've lost they were saying they hadn't lost a home game since January, and now they've lost several in a row at home. I haven't got the stats in front of me now to say, but if you watch the preview on their channel, it's all there. I was quite intrigued, but yeah, okay, I'll go 1-0 Swans.
1-0 Swans.
I said 2-2 on their podcast, so I'm gonna kick myself. If it's
Fair
2-2
enough.
now.
Yeah. All right, Lee.
They reckon
home.
they're not going to score a goal. So
Let's go 2-0 Burnley.
I'm going to go 1-0 Burnley. Good luck, Luke.
where are we? Oh, we're home.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's Burnley, you know.
0-0.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
nice.
most like. To be fair, that's the most likely one. You got to bet that we don't score, haven't you? 11 goals because he's at 37.
Yeah.
So there's only so
It'll
many
either be
scoreline-
0-0 or 1-1.
Yeah, there's only so many
Or 1-0
scorelines you
either
can
way.
go. When
Yeah.
they're 13 clean sheets in a row until last week. It's bizarre.
That's
Absolutely
mental.
bizarre.
That is
Yeah.
mental.
I'd never heard of anything like that.
No.
Well, I wonder what the lowest amount of goals conceded in Championship is.
It's got to be this, right?
It gotta
Gotta
be.
be on.
I was thinking this.
But
Yeah,
I would have
surely.
thought that would have been everywhere that they were on course to break that record, but I haven't really seen anyone talking about it.
Well, I'll just Google it quickly because I'm going to be wondering otherwise. What's the lowest number?
Okay, while you're Googling that then, the last question I wanted to ask was, so Alan Sheehan, we obviously have no concrete confirmation. We think that he's probably going to get given the job to the end of the season. I did put up earlier on the bookies, what they've got at the moment, and only one bookie from the selection I've got on the screen right now, which is Bet Victor, is actually offering odds. Alan Sheehan is 1-5 odds on. The second person is 16-1, and several people after that, it just goes up. That's very significant in terms of no one else is getting the job at the moment, according to the bookies. There was some rumours that Swans are looking to the continent maybe for the next manager. So I do think he'll get the job till the summer, and maybe then it will be reviewed. It's obviously early to have this conversation because we don't know how the rest of the season is going to pan out. But what do we think about him? First of all, having it now to the end of the season, and then longer term, like when that conversation inevitably comes up again in the summer, do you think there's a scenario either way for him to either get it or to not get it?
End of the season, fine. That's what makes sense because we can't really go up or down now. So it makes no sense to try and bring somebody in at this point of the season and rushing it. Rather take your time. Chances are we want to poach someone from who's already in a job, which means you won't get them now. You wait till the summer out of respect for the club and they'll be more gettable. Secondly, I don't think he's got the credentials and the experience to be able to deal with long-term problems as they come up. I feel like he does the basics right, but I think when the basics get found out, I don't know if you can trust him to find workarounds and adapt as needed. The bigger question for me is he's been interim twice now, and he's clearly stated he wants the job. So is it fair to expect a new manager now to work in tandem with him if he was like assistant coach or backup coach? So for me, it's a case of, as cutthroat as it sounds, he's doing well, and he clearly likes and cares about the club. If we do choose not to give him the job, which I don't think we should he really be staying at all? And I know it sounds mental to say, but I
guess
think
that was the
I think
argument
to
last
work,
time as well.
to work cohesively going forward, whoever comes in, I don't think it's fair to have a direct rival, someone who wants your job and has proven he can do your job basically, to be working with you. I think it's caused issues now clearly with Margetson as well. Will Margetson stay? That's another one. We want him to, but will he? It's a lot of questions to be answered. So I think if you're going to go, especially to the continent, you could possibly a foreign.
You also need to trust a new man to bring in his coaching
Yeah,
teams, don't you?
that's what I was going to say. Like possibly a foreign speaking manager, maybe hopefully fluent English, but English may not be their first language as well. You probably want somebody who's like an entire backroom team who like converses in your first language when you're having discussions in private and whatever. That's just, I'd want that anyway, So
yeah, I think I think you're right. I think he's either got to get the job or he has to go. I think he has made it clear that he wants it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. If he doesn't get it and he stays on as a coach, I think because he's already done it twice now, I think even more so if the new manager kind of doesn't get good results. Say we hit like a form like Williams again, it'll be like, oh, just sack him and give it a Sheehan, just to plug the gap. You'll just start hearing that all the time, and it'll always be like hanging over the new manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, you've got to pull the trigger. So you either got to give him the job or he's not going to be at the club. But there's two ways for Sheehan to look at it. I think he definitely wants it, but does he? I think if he's being clever, he should say, now I'll take it to the international break, and then you got to tell me if I'm getting the job or not. Or he can use it for the rest of the season to kind of audition for other jobs if he doesn't get it.
Because if they say to him, like, you've got to have it to the end of the season, there's no way he can play hardball. He has to accept that.
Because the alternative as well is the longer he's in this post, as long as he keeps like getting results, it makes it more difficult to replace him. He's got to know that. So if he goes these next 10 games and wins like 6 of them, draws the other 2, loses 2, whatever, you're going to have so many fans who are like, what more do you want? Why won't you give him the job and things? And it puts pressure on the board because it becomes more difficult to replace. And we got to be careful here because this is the cutthroat cycle that Cardiff can never get out of. They hire an interim, they do well at the start, they give him a longer term job. It falls apart. They replace them with another interim because they're mid-season, and it never ends. And that's why they are where they are. So you can't fall for the trap of the interim manager because it happens so often.
I think you're spot on. I think like when I've had this like chat with like some friends or my dad, I said like he's not doing anything wrong. If you're looking at it now, and if he carries on this form, you'd think, oh yeah, give him the job. But by no actual reasoning or no evidence, I just can't see it working. I can just see him getting the job, and then eventually, like Christmas time or January next year, we'd be like, oh, it would fall apart. Do you know what I mean? I just can't see it being a long-term thing.
Do you think part of it is
because every time he's come in, he's kind of done a job and got us where we need to be, but it's just not an appointment that would get fans excited. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to him, but I can just I think Ben hit the nail on the head with like Cardiff. You get into a manager and you have a bit of a bounce, and then I could just see it tailing off pretty quickly.
So part of it is like we just need fresh.
Yeah,
like he was here through Duff, and he was here through Williams, and as harsh as it sounds, if he doesn't get the job, then you just need you just need a fresh slate completely. Because like you mentioned all those things, like if he does stay, if there's a new manager and he did stay, we don't know what happened. But there was rumours that he was, in Coleman's ear about sacking Williams. Whether that's true or not, or whether he's proved that he was right or not, if that was true, because maybe that did happen, and then you could argue, well, what you were saying might have been right, and he's shown that now. But regardless, it's not fair on any new manager to come in and have that potentially happening, because it undermines that person, even if it's like I don't know, if they got a good relationship and he's going there and just talking to him about stuff. I just feel like if you were the guy that's come in to be the head person, you just find that undermining from the start anyway. And that could, over long term, cause friction. Because maybe that is what caused Williams to want to go to West Brom, is that sort of dynamic in a club. We don't know, do we? I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
But like, I guess you run that sort of risk then in that situation. If those things, they came from somewhere, didn't they? And maybe in this instance, you know, what he was, if that is true and what he was saying, we needed some sort of change, and it's ended up working out on this occasion. But you just don't want to get into that cycle where you think a coach is pulling strings that he shouldn't be pulling, even if he can do a good job when he has to step in, because I just, like Ben said as well, he'd probably get into a really bad cycle.
Cardiff lost. Just wanted to, yeah, cool.
Is it finished? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite spicy. I'm going to enjoy work tomorrow.
I'm currently winding up my mates who are from Cardiff fans.
Well, you're going to enjoy work tomorrow, Lee. Are you in the office?
I am.
Oh, I'm in Cardiff on Thursday.
How to the conversation? Are they? Is there many of many fans there, or are they not football?
I don't know anyone that was a Cardiff fan, but I'm just going to go around the office and speak to people I don't know.
Yeah, I used to find I've worked in Cardiff for about must be about 10 years now, but I used to find there was no one in Cardiff that supported Cardiff. They used to come from like outside of Cardiff, and everyone in supports like Man United and Liverpool. But in my new job, there is quite a few Cardiff fans there, so it's been fun up until this season. But now it's coming back in my favour after the derby.
I mean, they had one match.
Yeah,
like it's like a last hurrah. If they go down, it's like the last hurrah before they go down. So who really would have had the last laugh?
Swear they won the league in January though, didn't they? I thought.
My mates who are Cardiff fans are saying I can't believe they lost that. They were dire. So maybe they played.
But
right,
you
I
were
don't
more
know.
dire.
Well, I don't know. I said they do better than they said absolutely not. So I think they were just both crap. Also, just going back before I forget, Burnley have conceded 11 goals so far. The league low record ever is 30.
30.
Oh wow, 30 is the record. They're going to beat that surely.
Well, 10 games to go. So if they concede a
Leeds
goal a
might
game,
Leeds might even beat that.
if they concede a goal a game, they'll end on 21. So they'll beat it by 9.
Leeds are currently conceded 23, and Sheffield United are currently conceded 27. This is the whole Gulf thing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
their
Leeds
three teams
essentially
recently.
are the best championship team of all time, by the way. It would be a podcast in its own explaining the ins and outs of all that, but every inner metric, like the really fancy date that all the nerds would go crazy for, they are like top of it, like pretty much, but at a canter.
Other than points.
Yeah.
Crazy. Just wanted to have a quick look before I sign the video off at this game, just to make myself feel better more than anything. Was it Cat? I'm getting them up now, yeah. Who's playing these days? Oh, Colburn's on the wing now, is he? That's Salek seems to be. Where did they get him from?
I don't know.
Somewhere in
Did
Holland.
he score again tonight?
No.
No, I was going to say because he has been scoring.
Yeah, he seems like a decent sign-in. Callum Chambers scored for them. But they had... Well, that's what he says, one big chance here.
One big chance.
13 shots to 9 in favour of Cardiff. Quite, considering they're home, quite equal, really. 57% possession Cardiff, and they lost. See, it's a trend.
Yeah. Nobody wants the ball.
Yeah. But I have, well, the Cardiff fans I know always say when they dictate more of the ball, they tend to have worse results. So.
Yeah, oh well. I mean, they could be in League One the way they're going, honestly. If Derby back-to-back wins as well, they beat Coventry, which is huge. Coventry have been on the best run of form in the league.
Yeah, that was a massive coupon buster, that was. But it goes to show, though. I think, we beat Middlesbrough on the weekend. They've gone and won tonight, haven't they? They beat QPR and, a point away against Preston. Everyone, I know we were bad, but they've gone away and got a point against Sunderland tonight.
Yeah,
So Jerry Yates is going to do it on the last day of the season.
Sure. Is it actually Derby Cardiff, is it?
No, but he will score the goal that seals the fate of both clubs.
Oh, right, I see what you mean.
To be fair, the goal difference, Cardiff are on -21 and Derby are on -12. That's a point in itself.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And
Salvageable.
Stoke are on -14. So it is, as much as they're both on 36 points, Cardiff and Stoke.
Yeah.
Stoke
-9.
gotta be.
Sorry, what?
No, I was going to say Stoke have got to be careful because they seem to have been flirting with him for the last couple of years as well, like quietly.
Well, they
We
have
came
since
down the
they
same
got
time, didn't
relegated.
we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been there like.
Same
Yeah, but they
time.
came down, didn't they? When we came down, they spent big, didn't they? And then it didn't
And
pay
it
off.
just has not worked for them.
Yeah.
They've
Just
been down
stuffed it.
there. I don't think they've had a top half finish.
No, 7 mil Ryan Woods, 12 mil Benicophobe. The way they spent that money, was it 10 mil Tommins? It was so
The
bad.
riots when we didn't get Woods, remember?
Yeah, I was one of them.
What happened to him? He fell off a cliff, didn't he?
He's in League One, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cheers, lads, for that one. I'll have this probably up after the Watford game now, thanks to Lee's mishap halfway through. I'm going to have to do some editing, which will add to the production time, unfortunately. But I'm sure it will be up soon. But you would have already listened to it by the time you heard me say that. But yeah, thanks as always. Don't forget to let us know in the comments about how you feel about everything we spoke about. How do you think Alan Sheehan's getting on? Do you think he's the man to take us forward, or where would you like to go otherwise? And we shall catch you in the next one. So have a good one.
In a bit.
Ta-ra.